stand for. It's the opposite of life. And to me, it's deeper than that. To me, it's Hitlerism at its worst. Nuclear weapons, you see, whenever you fight somebody, whenever you engage in war, you become like your enemy. You assume the tactics and strategy. Look how we firebombed Bremen, Hamburg, Tokyo. These were terrorist activities, totally unjustified. Those are criminal activities that we engaged in. And what did Hitler do? He sort of industrialized genocide, right? What did we do? We showed Hitler was a piker. He had to burn one body at a time. We could burn a whole city at once.
More efficient.
I mean, a new level of ghoulish efficiency. And where is the moral outrage? Now, organizations, and that is an important point of my book and what I've learned, if you don't have moral arousal and outrage and you don't work on that key, because we're intellectuals, we go after reason. Nonsense. Reason has nothing to do with it. You have to raise the moral conscience that every person possesses and to arouse that to a nascent intensity.
Sorry, we have a question from the floor.
Yes.
Nancy, our past president.
Nancy what?
Hello
Nancy.
there, Dr. Lown.
Yes, Nancy.
I am wondering how over the many years you have kept up the drive and energy to keep going in the peace movement.
I'm so glad you asked that. You know why? Because I came to Ottawa as visiting professor. I had rounds at 7 o'clock in the morning. Then they exploited the hell out of me, and I had more rounds, and meeting with young doctors and meeting with cardiologists, and gave a special lecture for the public. At 8 o'clock, I was dead tired, but they asked me, the PSR of Canada asked me if they could have a meeting, and the earliest I was through with a banquet at 10 o'clock. So at 10 o'clock, we have this meeting. And I'm dripping with fatigue. And one doctor, like you, a woman doctor, said to me, Dr. Lown, how could you keep this up? Where do you get the energy? And I was puzzled. And you know what I said? One word, outrage.
Oh, okay.
Outrage. If you're not outraged, you are not going to be effective. It's not an intellectual game because the stakes are so high. And if you see injustice and you can deal with it in a detached way, you are losing not only effectiveness, but the drive essential to achieve a successful outcome. And when people see you with reasonable passion, I don't mean outrage, you throw fits, but outrage that is burning inside of you, that people recognize, that is extraordinarily effective. Don't pay attention to this phone call.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
I had an additional question in terms of more contemporary outrage, and certainly in terms of our younger physician, medical students, and so on population. They're totally oblivious to the nuclear threat, have forgotten or never knew of the nuclear holocaust, a potential for total destruction of the planet, even with the new nuclear famine, nuclear winter data. They seem to be uninterested. There's a shift towards climate change, global warming, and perhaps some consciousness that this is the new threat to survival of the planet. How do we balance those issues, and how can we get young people back into the movement, young medical people especially?
I think it's a deep and important question that doesn't have one single answer. But let me just begin the discussion. Firstly, you begin by reading my book.
I read it cover to cover.
No, I'm
Loved
talking-
it.
We're all going to read it.
I want
No,
to
no,
tell you, I
please,
laughed and I cried right through it.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. And you know, because what you are touching is a significant thing, because what is happening is the fact that we are losing connection with history. We're losing a knowledge of the past. And that is horrific, because the past has to be there in order to guide us in the future. Otherwise, we are meandering and repeating the same mistakes. Look at the United States, the tragedy of what we have done in Korea, where we killed 1 million Koreans, 58,000 Americans or something. Then we go on in Vietnam. In Vietnam, according to my Vietnamese friends, we killed 5 million people in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and 58,000 or something like that Americans. And then we are back in Iraq. I mean, this cycle of violence continues. And now we are on the verge of getting involved deeply with Iran in some murderous activity, recognizing that the ultimate terrorism is not the jihadist, but the military. War is the ultimate terrorism. Now, but people don't know about it. You know, it's said in Boston, which is the Athens of America. You know, we have 50 major universities and colleges. We have about 350,000 university students. It's extraordinarily cultured. In one Boston college, a professor asked the students recently, who was the first to use an atomic bomb? And the answer of the students, the majority, felt it was Japan used the atom bomb first at Pearl Harbor.
Oh.
Now, the majority of Americans couldn't identify Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan on a map. The nature of ignorance is so abysmal, and therefore the lost sight of, the moment you lose sight of the past, you can be victimized intellectually. And Orwell put it well, if I could recall what he said. Those who control the present control the past. And those who control the past control the future. And that is the aim of, is to stupefy people really about history and knowledge. And this is to me the most difficult problem you face with young people, or with most people now in America, who are so ignorant. You know, it's interesting to me, when I went to the Soviet Union, I was immediately taken aback how well informed the Soviets were compared to my contemporaries at Harvard. I was a professor at Harvard, the most elite school in the world, and yet those buddies of mine knew less than ordinary Russians I was encountering what